Now on CBS 12 News this morning, lockdown lifted. We're just days away from phase 1 of reopening Palm Beach County. While many businesses are happy to get back to work, not everyone is on board. The debate from both sides. Plus, on-site antibody testing, where you can go to see if your body has the ability to fight COVID-19. And take a look at the radar in our area. You'll notice that storm right in the Gulf, the impact that could have here on South Florida this weekend. We'll check in with CBS 12 meteorologist Zach Covey with a look at your weekend weather. CBS 12 News This Morning starts now.
You're watching CBS 12 News This Morning.
Good Saturday morning. I'm Kristen Chapman. It's 5 a.m. on May 9th. Thanks for waking up with us. We have plenty of stories to get to, but first let's get straight over to meteorologist Zach Covey with a look at the weather. Good morning.
Good morning, and a very good morning to our friends in Okeechobee. We're spotlighting you this morning. It's 61 degrees under some clear and calm conditions there. Dew point and feels like temperature coming in at the exact same as well. 61 there. It's 65 in Vero Beach, 67 Port St. Lucie, 63 on the south side of Lake O and Belle Glade, as well as in Wellington, 69 Jupiter, 68 West Palm, 67 for our neighbors early this morning in Boynton Beach. But as Kristen said, we do have a storm system that we have been keeping an eye on. It's a two-parter here. First, this little line that came out of the bayous of New Orleans yesterday. This is actually headed towards the south. Meanwhile, you have this line exiting Texas, Corpus Christi, Brownsville. This heading due east. And these two lines are going to begin to kind of interact with one another over the open waters of the Gulf. Don't worry, no tropical development, but it is going to bring a pretty soggy day to South Florida as we roll our way into Mother's Day tomorrow. Today, though, nice and dry, mostly sunny for Okeechobee and for much of the area. We'll talk about those daytime highs reaching the 80s, more about that rain, plus the long-term pattern for South Florida coming up this hour of CBS 12 News This Morning.
Zach, thank you. Well, this is the news a lot of people have been waiting for. The governor has agreed to allow Palm Beach County to reopen on Monday. CBS 12's Jay O'Brien is talking to business owners and employees who have been anxiously waiting to get back to work.
As we enter phase 1 of reopening, the world will look very different. Restaurants and shops will be required to let less people in. Social distancing will be key, and masks will be everywhere. It's all part of our rocky road to reopening. Excitement brews for a comeback.
Maybe a dinner out, that would be nice.
Like, I can't contain myself.
But don't be fooled. This weekend before reopening will be hard work for business owners.
So, for instance, here, we decided not to use this table.
Come Monday, for the first time since March, diners will sit down in Terry Bode's Pistache and find no one around for 6 feet.
I think that smaller parties will be more likely to go out first, coming out of confinement.
In phase 1 of reopening, restaurants like Terry's and even shops can only let in a fourth of their usual capacity.
We'll be far from our full capacity for sure.
To make up the money, Terry's extending seating out to the patio, maybe even the street, as employees screen for symptoms, wait tables in masks and gloves.
If people are taking it seriously, then I can see this working. And from that point on, yes, I couldn't wait to reopen.
Salon owner Stacy Roche is also placing trust in her customers.
I have my guidelines for my clients and myself already in place.
After some confusion, salons like Stacy's will also reopen Monday, expecting a surge of appointments.
What's nerve-wracking is to make sure that everybody stays safe, I stay safe.
The one question business owners won't be able to answer until doors are unlocked.
If I told you I'm not worried at all, I'd be lying.
How many customers will truly come back?
Restaurants are such a part of our life, of people's lives. Those are some of the pleasures that we'll find a way around it.
There's a lot of fears, there's a lot of excitement, and there's a lot of people that are ready to have their hair done.
As small businesses reopen, it will no doubt have an impact on a job market that is suffering. To put that in perspective, not far from here, there was a free grocery line that stretched for miles. Many of the families in line were out of work. I'm Jay O'Brien, CBS 12 News.
And not everyone is on board with Palm Beach County reopening. We did speak with Congresswoman Lois Frankel about the decision. She says based on everything she's heard from health experts, it's too early.
Look, I know people are stressed out, they want to get out, but this is too quick, and I really am worried that it's dangerous.
Frankel says before we reopen, she thinks we need to do a better job of testing and tracing. She also says health experts believe reopening too early could lead to a spike in new cases. While retailers in Palm Beach County will be allowed to reopen on Monday, many are waiting. The Gardens Mall announced it will reopen on May 15th. That's just 1 week from today. And Wellington Mall plans to reopen even later on the 18th. The Palm Beach County outlets won't wait. They will be open on Monday. What's not open on Monday? The beaches. Palm Beach County commissioners agreed to tentatively approve May 18th as the reopening date, but they could change their minds. The reopening comes with strings attached. It will be residents only. Commissioners still need to finalize the reopening decision with another vote next week. In the coming week, attorneys will figure out if it's even legal to make that restriction, and lifeguards will offer input on how to handle expected crowds and how to enforce social distancing rules. Meantime, Martin County beaches have been open for weeks, but as of yesterday, no outsiders are allowed, only people who live in Martin County. Commissioners voted to change the rules to make sure the beach crowds don't get too large. Martin County Sheriff's deputies will be patrolling and enforcing the rules. Hobe Sound and Bathtub Reef Beach will remain closed. And if you are heading to the beach this weekend in St. Lucie County, restrictions there are being lifted. You can now lay out on the beach, and it's okay to once again bring chairs, blankets, and coolers. You still must stay 6 feet apart and not gather in groups larger than 10 people. Pools are still closed. Those will open on the 23rd. Playgrounds and athletic fields also remain closed for now. Then for all of you very patient moms and dads out there, I'm sure you're still adjusting to your kids taking all those online classes at home, and public schools are still adjusting too. So we wanted to see how things are going as they continue learning for next year, especially if there's no vaccine for coronavirus.
If we have the capability for you to learn at home, I don't want you to choose to come to school even when you're sick. So I have to leave the option open for you to work from home.
The school district in Palm Beach County, well, it's the largest employer here. Since those changes, the district has stopped hiring new teachers and other workers. The shutdown is expected to cut into revenues next year. Starting today, healthcare workers and first responders can get rapid coronavirus antibody testing in West Palm Beach. CBS 12's Madeline Montgomery is live from the ballpark of the Palm Beaches with what will be happening there today. Good morning, Madeline.
Good morning, Kristen. The men and women that are keeping us safe can now come here and make sure they're safe. It's going to be no appointment required for first responders and for health workers to come here and get the nasal swab test as well as a fast test. That rapid test is actually an antibody test, and it does require blood to be drawn. Test results only take 45 minutes, and this kind of testing is also being done at the Hard Rock testing site down south. And the testing site here is going to be open from 8 until noon. And testing is limited for those rapid tests. For now, live in West Palm Beach, Madeline Montgomery, CBS 12 News.
Madeline, thank you. Well, now to that staggering news about the economy. An unprecedented 20.5 million jobs were lost in April. A decade of gains wiped out in just a single month. And it comes as 20 million Americans are still waiting for their stimulus checks. Every segment of the workforce has been affected. CBS's Mark Strassman reports on who's been hit hardest.
Thousands of Hawaiians waited hours for food on Oahu. Financial freefall is now possible, even in paradise. On Long Island, a box of free groceries brought out the newly needy.
It means that I'll be able to eat and hopefully go to the next food drive and get more food next week.
April's job losses were 25 times worse than any single month of the Great Recession. Virtually every sector fell into crisis. Hospitality and travel, 7.7 million jobs lost. Retail lost more than 2 million. Manufacturing and healthcare more than 1 million each. President Trump promised a quick recovery.
And we'll build something that was even better than we had before.
Most states have partially reopened for business. But is it safe?
If they open, will we come? And what we also don't know is what the next wave could look like if the economy doesn't pick up quickly enough for these employers to keep people on the payroll.
Some analysts believe restoring all the lost jobs could take a decade or more, especially hard-hit minority workers. The black unemployment rate is 16.7%. Among Latinos, it's 18.9%.
All of a sudden, we have nothing.
Fabian De Agostini, a father of two, lost his job as a server at the Diplomat Hotel in South Florida.
We don't know when we're going to go back to work and if all of us will be back.
Dig into the unemployment report and you'll find an even bleaker number. If you include underemployed people and people who have stopped looking for work, the broader unemployment rate is nearly 23%. And that is a Great Depression number. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
That being said, investors seem to shrug off those devastating job reports. Yesterday, the market gained ground. The Dow gained almost 2%, while the S&P 500 climbed 1.7%. The Nasdaq picked up 1.6%. Well, coming up, spending more time online at home means scammers are coming up with new ways to trick you. What you need to look for when you log on. And coronavirus concerns mean big changes for the popular Miss America pageant. It's canceled this year. Who will take the crown in the meantime? Sweet Tomatoes, also known as Soup Plantation in some other cities, is closing all of its 97 restaurants permanently. San Diego-based Garden Fresh Restaurants, which owns Sweet Tomatoes, has been trying to save it. But the coronavirus pandemic took its toll on the buffet-style restaurant. Sweet Tomatoes opened its first store in Florida in 1990 in Palm Harbor. That's right near Tampa. Meantime, Apple says it will reopen some of its stores starting on Monday. The first location to open will be in Boise, Idaho. Other states will soon follow. Apple says it will require temperature checks and masks for customers and staff. It will also enforce social distancing. And then with many of us spending more time on social media during this pandemic, the Better Business Bureau says watch out for scammers. A lot of ripoff artists are using social media sites like Facebook, for instance, to offer counterfeit coupons. Now, many have seasonal or gift-giving themes, especially with Mother's Day on Sunday and those virtual graduations happening. The BBB says customers should be skeptical. The better the deal, the more likely it's a scam. If the coupon doesn't have an expiration date, that's often a dead giveaway. It's fake. You can also do a web search about the offer to see if it's legitimate. Sad news coming from the world of entertainment. Roy Horn from the legendary Las Vegas show Siegfried and Roy has died from coronavirus complications. CBS News correspondent Danya Backus has more from Los Angeles.
Magician Roy Horn, who was half of the Siegfried and Roy act that combined dazzling theatrics with rare and endangered animals for decades, has died. Horn's publicist says he died from complications of COVID-19. Siegfried and Roy's nearly 4-decade run in Las Vegas made the duo world famous. In a statement, Siegfried Fischbacher said he lost his best friend. From the moment we met, I knew Roy and I together would change the world, Siegfried said. There could be no Siegfried without Roy and no Roy without Siegfried. Horn was born in Germany in 1944 during the height of World War II. Horn took an interest in animals from an early age. Years later, he met Siegfried while both were working on a cruise ship. In 2003, Horn's performance career came to an almost deadly end. One of his white tigers dragged him off stage. Horn survived and said the tiger thought Horn was having a stroke. Ray Horn was 75. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Funeral services for Roy Horn will be private, with plans for a public memorial in the future. We've just learned there won't be a Miss America this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizers say it's to keep everyone safe. In the meantime, the postponement means the current Miss America, Camille Schreier, will serve an extra year until she can pass the torch. The next Miss America pageant is a big milestone. It's the agency's 100th anniversary. After a month's hiatus due to coronavirus, the zoo at the center of the hit Netflix documentary series Tiger King reopened this weekend to, no surprise, huge crowds. Hundreds showed up to pet tiger cubs and see all sorts of other animals there, despite the many animal cruelty claims made by animal advocates. Right now, entry is free, but the zoo is accepting donations. If you've seen the show, then you already know this, but the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park was owned by a man called Joe Exotic. He's the one known as the Tiger King. The docuseries had such a big impact on the zoo that it will soon be called the Tiger King Park. One of Joe Exotic's business partners, Jeff Lowe, is now the owner of that zoo. He plans to close it and reopen a brand new one in the summer. Now let's check in with meteorologist Zach Covey. What's going on today, Zach?
Well, it is all about a dry period before this. It may not look like a lot, but do you see that little tiny circle right there? That circle that has just developed is a line of pressure, equal pressure, and that is our developing area of low pressure. As this northern stream dives to the south and this western stream moves to the east, they're going to kind of combine around this area of low pressure and eventually bring some pretty hefty rain totals for South Florida, although there have been a couple of caveats that we will raise with that rainfall on our Sunday. We'll get to those in just a second. First, let's talk about today. Right now across the state of Florida, pretty mild, 60s and 70s, and I'm saying that in comparison to what's happening up north. We'll talk about that coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes. But right now, locally, it's 65 in Vero Beach, 67 in Port St. Lucie, 65 in Indiantown, 63 from Belle Glade back out through Wellington, 66 in Boynton Beach, 68 downtown in West Palm Beach. Now, as we continue throughout the rest of the morning, West Palm quickly warms up. I mean, by 10 a.m., how about 80 degrees? I'm not too concerned about humidity levels today. More so this afternoon and evening, those dew points will begin to tick up, but by that point in time, I think we're going to be getting closer to sunset, so heat index isn't really going to be too much of a concern today. We'll be around 82 to 85 at the coastline. Away from the water, back out through Lake O, that's where you could find maybe 87 to 89 degrees with, again, a couple of those afternoon clouds begin to build in. So here's the setup. We've got that large, potent upper level low with a surface low developing. You've got some deep, rich moisture there, and this combined with that stalled front will begin to enhance rainfall across south and portions of central Florida. And then even into next week, another upper level low with another stalled frontal boundary pulls in even more moisture set to return. So we're trading in this dry pattern we've been in for more of a wet pattern. Here's the latest run of our RPM model, our rapid precision model, if you will. And notice on Sunday, kind of dry. Previous model runs had it almost like an all-day soaker. Now it looks like the rain will begin to come in across the Keys around 1 o'clock. Maybe a few scattered showers for the northern tier of the state, but that's going to be more so from an enhanced onshore flow from the Atlantic. The actual storm system won't begin to reach South Florida now until about 5 p.m., bringing in some of the heftiest totals really from Boynton Beach south. So I really am kind of honing in on this forecast of the further south you are, the more likely you are to find heftier totals. The American model saying 1 to 2 inches down near the Keys. The European model putting out nearly a foot of rain in some parts of the area. We will need to keep a close eye because depending on where that line of heftier showers sets up will determine the rainfall totals. Either way, I don't think it's going to be a washout for Mother's Day, Kristen. Just some hit and miss showers throughout the afternoon.
Okay, good to keep in mind. Thanks, Zach. And you can track weather anytime you want with our CBS 12 News Weather app. Just click WPEC in your app store. It's free. We'll be right back.
The following segment is sponsored by Knocking.
Hi, I'm Genevieve Border, and welcome to my kitchen at America's Steals and Deals, where I'm bringing you great products for incredible savings, so we all win, right? And let's talk about chores today, because we all have to do them. We don't want to, but we have to. I have 2 products that are going to make doing your chores a little bit more enjoyable. The first one is grocery shopping. So we're going in, we're picking up all the plastic bags, the paper bags, more plastic bags at checkout. It's a lot that we throw away. It's a pet peeve of mine. Enter the Lotus Trolley Bag. Now this is a system of 4 different bags. Some are insulated for cold stuff, some have room for eggs, for wine. You can organize your groceries as you walk through the store because these rest right on your shopping cart. I kid you not, you are a grocery store superstar. Everyone will be like, where are those? Where can I get those? Put in mine. And we're throwing in 9 machine washable produce bags, which I love. We are offering 40% off of all of these items today, which is a great steal and an incredible invention. Thank you to whoever created this. Cooking, this is something we're doing a ton of lately, even more than normal. And even if you enjoy it, it's feeling a little bit like a chore. I feel you. I also have been in all of your houses, and I know that not many of you have one sharp knife. Hi, Mom. Enter Emeril Lagasse, a TV personality, renowned chef, restaurateur, and of course maker of incredible products. Today we're offering a system of stainless steel knives, each clearly labeled as to what kind of knife it is, so you always grab for the right one when you're in the drawer. Also a series of cutting mats. We don't want chicken with our vegetables. We don't want to mix the pork with our vegetables. Clear iconography, clearly color-coded and easy to use, which is a win-win for everybody. Today, 50% off. To take advantage of both of these deals, you can go to asadeals.com.
12 News this morning. Now it's been almost 2 months without any live sports due to the coronavirus pandemic. Torture for many fans. As CBS 12 sports director John Evanson reports, yesterday's tennis match was a long-awaited relief.
Now the South Florida Honda Sports Report.
The 2020 Reopen UTR Pro Match Series is based at a private residence in West Palm, featuring 4 top 60 world-ranked men's players. Love this right here. Hubert Hurkacz beats Tommy Paul, the racket pump right there, then waves to the non-existent crowd. Strict social distancing and safety regulations at this event, of course. Delray Beach Open champ Ryan Opelka taking on Paul, both top 10 American players. Paul double faults there. Match point here. What a fantastic return from Opelka to win it. He won both of his matches today. Anna Logan, meanwhile, witnessed the very first step back in live sports.
It's not a rerun, some 30-year-old championship replay or trip down memory lane. This is live professional tennis, back on the court for the first nationally televised sporting event to take place on U.S. soil since the pandemic hit.
It's cool. I mean, we're giving live sport for people to watch, and I think that's important in a time like this.
I think it's really great that UTR is even putting an event together for us, because otherwise we don't have much motivation when we're training.
Opelka and 3 other members of Pro Tennis's top 50 are squaring off at a private tennis court in West Palm Beach. Very private, not a fan in sight, no ball kids, and no line judges.
People bring energy to my game and other players' games, so it's definitely a different vibe, different feel.
It's definitely different, but the Tennis Channel and UTR are excited to be a part of the reopening of professional competition in the U.S.
There's nothing out there that's going to stop the human spirit, and for all of us here today, I think that it's just a celebration of getting back to some semblance of normalcy.
The players had to compete without the rush and energy from the crowd, but the sounds from the court were music to the ears of fans around the world.
It's not the most viewer-friendly at times, but hey, it's something, It's at least a step in the right direction, and I hope there's more events like this in the future, because at least just for me and Tommy, we've been training together, it gave us something to at least be motivated for.
That was Anna Logan reporting. Now, the event does continue today. You can watch it on the CW34 from noon to 4 p.m. Matches on Sunday have been canceled due to bad weather. Well, coming up, the lockdown had at least one positive impact. Lots of animals got adopted from local shelters. But now that it's lifting, there's a new concern. What local groups are bracing for? And helping the hungry, where you can go today if you need a hot meal and groceries.
Hubbard Radio Stations, proud sponsors of the CBS 12 News Network, the one to turn to.
CBS 12 News this morning. The coronavirus crisis meant clearing local shelters. But now that we're about to reopen, what happens to those adopted pets? The one thing animal agencies are bracing for. Plus, Feeding South Florida. With unemployment rates hitting new highs, many people are going hungry, where you can go for a free meal today. And then take a look at the radar. You'll notice those storms in the Gulf. What that could mean for our weekend here. We'll check in with CBS 12 meteorologist Zach Covey with a look at your weekend weather. CBS 12 News This Morning starts now.
You're watching CBS 12 News This Morning.
Good Saturday morning. I'm Kristen Chapman. It's 5:32 on May 9th. Thanks for waking up with us nice and early. We do have plenty of stories to get to, but first let's get straight over to meteorologist Zach Covey. Good morning, Zach.
Good morning, and we are just about 1 hour out now, 6:34 exactly for that sunrise. Getting a little earlier and earlier. We are in May after all. Take a look at our observed lows so far this morning. 65 in Vero Beach, 63, the lowest we've been in Fort Pierce. 68, still balmy, but cooler in West Palm, and 61 back out through Okeechobee. These are below average, though. We typically average an overnight low of around 70 degrees. Talk about below average, says Pittsburgh, Detroit, 28. 29 degrees in those locations this morning. 37 in New York, down to the freezing mark in Chicago, and 38 in Nashville. Yes, it is May, and yet this swath of freeze warnings and frost advisories makes it feel more like winter. In fact, over 83 million Americans waking up with lows below freezing this morning. That's the northern stream. The southern stream taking shape across the Gulf. This is our next storm system coming up. We'll detail out when it arrives in South Florida and how much rain you could see in your neighborhood. I've got the details coming up in a bit.
Sounds good. Thanks, Zach. Well, animal shelters are getting cleared out, all thanks to people adopting pets while quarantined. But what happens when this crisis is over? CBS 12's Madeline Montgomery shows why animal rescuers are worried for the future of recently adopted dogs and cats.
An empty animal shelter, something unprecedented during a crisis.
Usually when this country's in a crisis, everybody wants to get rid of possibly everything they possibly can to just survive. We've gone through something different. I know how you are.
In 30 years of animal rescue, Carol Chapuis has never seen pet adoption in such high demand.
It's a good time for people to adopt now because they have all the time in the world to just get their pet acclimated to their lifestyle.
But Carol worries when things go back to normal and people have less time, they'll return a pet that was supposed to be in a forever home.
This is a lifetime commitment. We want people to adopt, and it's forever.
Devin Soto of Karma Pet Rescue wants to encourage people to wait to adopt a rescue instead of adopting from a breeder or pet shop because of the anticipated return animals.
Right now we have more adopters than we have animals in rescue, and what we're asking right now is for people just to be patient. We know that they're at home, they're bored, and they're itching to have some companionship, but we also know that pretty soon in the near future, we may have an influx of owner surrenders.
Above all, both rescuers want people to view pet adoption as a permanent addition to their family. From Loxahatchee, Madeline Montgomery, CBS 12 News.
Helping the hungry, today Feeding South Florida is holding a mega food drive in the Christ Fellowship Church parking lot at the Boynton Beach Mall. Now they hope to feed 5,000 families. People will be served fresh produce and protein on a first-come, first-served basis. Also today, our friends in the Bahamas who are still recovering from the destruction left behind by Hurricane Dorian 9 months ago will get a much-needed donation. Palm Beach County is donating a fire truck and ambulance. They'll be sent on a ship this morning with brand new logos. One will go to Marsh Harbor, the other Treasure Key.
Very glad to see that they're doing it, and over there they really need it with that storm surge they had and the salt water getting in the trucks and whatnot. The vehicles they have aren't going to last too much longer, in my opinion. So it's nice to see these expensive pieces of equipment going over there to help out.
The ships are expected to arrive by tomorrow morning. Looking ahead to Monday, the clerk and comptroller will reopen all locations in Palm Beach County. But of course, there are going to be new protocols. You're looking at some of them in this video. Plexiglass has been installed and there are markings on the floor to make sure everyone stays 6 feet apart. If you need to go there, you also must wear a face mask. There will be crowd control inside the lobby. As we move forward from the coronavirus pandemic, we're all adjusting to the new normal. This includes brides and grooms awaiting their big day. Coming up, what this looks like for the future of weddings. What large gatherings will look like in the future. Our Kara Duffy explains how weddings and venues are adjusting to the new normal.
The Addison is a historic private event venue in Boca Raton known for its 5-star dining and lavish parties, especially when it comes to weddings. From guests wearing masks to temperature checks at the door, celebrations will certainly look different, but that doesn't mean you can't still have your dream day. The next time you go to a wedding, it could look a lot more like this. An outdoor ceremony with fewer seats spaced further apart. Guests wearing masks.
And once upon a time, we may have celebrated with 200-300 people, but for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to see smaller, more intimate affairs with a strong focus on detail.
But just because your guest list is shorter doesn't mean your friends and family can't still be a part of your special day.
Guests can actually dial in, be part of the ceremony, dance, celebrate. They can even give a speech remotely.
You'll also notice more room on the dance floor.
You want to be able to get up and dance. It's one of the main focuses of any wedding or party. So we're working with companies to create custom dance floors that kind of X marks the spot.
While the celebration may not be exactly how a couple originally envisioned their special day together, the vice president of the Addison says she hopes they realize their wedding is history in the making.
If you look at photos of the 1918 Spanish flu, you see brides and grooms getting married in the middle of that pandemic wearing masks. And how cool is it to actually memorialize your wedding with a mask for your grandchildren to look back on and really truly appreciate just how historic your wedding was.
As for guests who are local but can't attend the wedding, like grandparents or those who are high risk for coronavirus, the VP of the Addison says their staff can actually deliver your wedding meal to those family members at their houses so they can still feel like they are part of your special day. Reporting in studio, I'm Kara Duffy, CBS 12 News.
Well, coming up, an arrest made in the shooting death of an unarmed black man in Georgia. The evidence that broke the case wide open and who's now in jail for murder charges. And we're hearing this debate across the country. When is a good time to reopen? The argument from both sides in this morning's Pulse of America.
Don't worry, it's not tropical, but an area of low pressure developing in the Gulf of Mexico. Doesn't look like a lot now. Give it 24 hours. It definitely will. I'll let you know how much rain this will produce for South Florida. That's coming up as CBS 12 News This Morning continues.
Back to CBS 12 News This Morning. It is 5:46, and you are taking a live look at the Mid-Florida Credit Union Event Center in Port St. Lucie. All is clear right now, but we are tracking a storm that could pop up by tomorrow. We'll check in with meteorologist Zach Covey in just a few minutes. Two men who had a deadly confrontation with an unarmed black man in Georgia are now charged with his murder. It happened more than 2 months ago, but a newly emerged cell phone video brought attention to the case. Nancy Chen has the latest from investigators.
Gregory and Travis McMichael made their first appearances in court Friday afternoon after they were arrested Thursday evening. They're charged in the death of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery.
We applied the law to the facts in this case and came up pretty quickly with a solid belief that there's sufficient probable cause to charge the McMichaels with felony murder and aggravated assault.
Cell phone video shows the father and son confronting Arbery in late February. His family says he was jogging in his own neighborhood. In the video, Arbery and Travis McMichael are seen wrestling with a shotgun before shots are fired. Police say the McMichaels told them they took their guns and went after Arbery because he resembled a suspect in a series of break-ins. CBS News confirms the video was filmed by local resident William Bryan. Authorities say Bryan and the McMichaels were following Arbery. Bryan is also now under investigation.
If, in fact, the facts take them to make another arrest in this case, then they will do that.
Arbery's father says his son was not a criminal.
He was a good, well-mannered, respectful young man, athletic. No justice.
Outside the Glenn County Courthouse, several hundred supporters gathered on what would have been Ahmaud Arbery's 26th birthday. For two different rallies throughout the afternoon. Nancy Chen, CBS News.
Gregory McMichael is a former law enforcement officer who used to work for the local district attorney. Due to conflicts of interest, the case is now on its third prosecutor. Well, across the country, leaders continue to discuss when the best time will be to reopen the country. Many shops, restaurants, businesses, and even more have been closed for nearly 2 months now. Stephanie Stasanashi has our Pulse of America from Asheville, North Carolina.
A city nestled in the western mountains of North Carolina, a popular tourist destination, a place with a unique vibe of history, arts, and outdoor activities. Over the years, Asheville has become a popular place for all kinds of people. This year, it's different.
Right now, when things would be getting busy with tourism and stuff, it's just very quiet.
The only sound you might hear downtown now are the chimes from the Basilica of St. Lawrence at the top of every hour.
At times it's peaceful, but at times it's kind of a bummer to not be able to enjoy your favorite spots.
Most places remain closed, a true sign of the times.
It probably will be a couple of years before it's back to normal, really.
This is like the Asheville I remember moving to 20 years ago.
Local restaurant owners like Adam Tone trying to adapt to the change of pace.
I think we're finally, after over a month or so of this system, getting comfortable with this arrangement, and we are doing deliveries and things.
Now preparing for another change, the reopening of the economy.
Oh, it's time.
I mean, are we ready to reopen? Maybe not, but I think we're all mentally ready for it.
I think we will get open when we're allowed to. I don't necessarily think that's going to have a huge impact immediately on our sales.
For some, reopening seems like the right decision right now.
I think opening up some is a good idea to keep the slow burn going so that we can get through this.
To me, it seems like herd immunity is probably what we should be going for.
I don't see coronavirus around here.
For others, not so much.
No, it's too soon.
I think you want to definitely take your time, especially with it comes to the healthcare system.
I think it's better to overreact and over-deliver than reopen too soon and kind of go backwards on things.
Whatever your stance, only time will tell what happens next. In Asheville, I'm Stephanie Sanastasi for Pulse of America.
Now let's check in with meteorologist Zach Covey. What's going on, Zach?
Well, it is a cool below average start to the day. We're at 61 in Okeechobee, 64 Indiantown, 66 PSL, 68 from Jupiter down through West Palm right now. We average an overnight low of 70 degrees on the 8th and 9th of May. So certainly below average. And we've got a storm system developing in the Gulf. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's talk about today, though. High-res futurecast shows that we should have a pretty nice day. We had a front that was beginning to dive down, but it kind of falls apart, and that is setting up to be the stationary front that will come into play tomorrow. But pretty much a nice dry day today, maybe an isolated shower after midnight for parts of Indian River County. Otherwise, 82 to 84 today. A little warmer back out through Lake O. That's where you could find 87 to 89. Warm and sunny and a few clouds after sunset. There are still some discrepancies with tomorrow's rainfall. For example, the American model bringing a widespread swath of showers across the area, but really no hefty rain totals, whereas the European model is still bringing in some pretty hefty totals, primarily south through Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe counties. But still, the idea that heavy rain is still a possibility in the European model is something we need to keep an eye on. It's all about location, 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 if you will. What we are fairly certain about, though, is the first half of the day not as wet. It's not going to be a washout tomorrow. I certainly think the shower activity ramps up tomorrow afternoon and evening. And on top of that, by the way, Kristen, tomorrow's highs in the 70s for the Treasure Coast to around 80 in West Palm. We will be near the record minimum high for a place like Vero Beach and Fort Pierce. That means we could be the coldest we have ever been for our daytime high temperatures in those locations tomorrow. Something we will definitely keep an eye on. So on top of this rain, it's certainly going to be a cool afternoon tomorrow.
All right, sounds good to me, Zach. We'll keep an eye on that. Well, coming up in our Morning Talkers, the sneaker every Michael Jordan fan will want to get their hands on, where you can buy a one-of-a-kind shoe and how much it could cost you. It's time now for our Morning Talker. Michael Jordan fans, you'll love this. These are signature Air Jordans from 1985, and they're up for auction. Not only are the Nike Air Jordan 1 shoes autographed by Michael Jordan himself, he also wore them in a Chicago Bulls game.
Yeah, they hit the Sotheby's auction block this weekend, where they're expected to sell for upwards of $150,000. The mid-top sneaker made exclusively for Jordan. So this pair actually varies slightly from the version available to the public. Kristen, I think this is really interesting. It's coming at a time where The Last Dance has really been taking over on ESPN. Of course, that is a series that documents the last championship that Jordan won. So the right time to hit the auction block.
Oh, 100%. This was fully timed out according to that show. I know it's even been on in my household, so
it's
I can
pretty
vouch for you
good so
there.
far, yeah.
I mean, it is riveting, actually. Really well done. But CBS 12 News this morning is just getting started. We have more news and weather coming up in just a couple minutes. See you then.